So I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd all, you know what? I don't have a flag to put up. I'm so sorry about that. We'll just have to use the one that's on the meeting agenda. Oh, Jim, you've got one. Good. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Jim, for the flag. I appreciate it.
Even blowing in the wind.
Yeah, I know it. That's great. That's terrific. Okay, and we are all here. And Kim, can you hear us via the phone? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so we'll go on to approval of the agenda. And great, so Tiffany, since you're here, you're writing down first and seconds, I assume. Is that right?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. So it's resolved that the Board of Education approve the agenda for the July 27th, 2020 special Board of Education meeting. May I have a motion?
Move.
Move, Joan, and a second?
Second.
Denise? Thank you. Terrific. Okay, so that's our connection. All right. And, you know, under public content, it just says that, you know, where we're going to be having the Board of Education meeting. But Tiffany, did you have any requests to speak for this meeting?
We did not.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we wanted to just spend a little time reviewing our norms. And so I'm going to put that document up. And I know we had just one item, or perhaps there are more that we wanted to talk about related to the norms. So I'm going to open it up to the floor and see what we'd like to address. This is a reminder of what our norms are, and I can go any place on this document you would like me to and make any changes. So I forgot the emails that were going on, so someone's going to have to help me with those that sent an email and wanted to talk a little bit more about one of these parts.
Yeah, Christy, I had sent an email about looking at number 7, just so we could make sure that we were all on the same page. I guess that falls under communication.
Great. And was there, Denise, was there something specific you wanted to talk about in terms of us all being on the same page, a specific aspect of it?
Well, I know, so I guess my question is under communication. So when I read this, I kind of felt like there were maybe 2 things in there. So if we wanted to, if we wanted to, like, you know, I had sent a quick email to the board and Matt McDonald, like a quick question. So is that something that the rest of the board is okay with? Like everybody CC'd on it, if we're just looking for a quick question, or does everybody want to go through this process of it needs to go to one of the, you know, the board president, vice president, superintendent, and then it would be shared with the rest of the board? Or can we just CC everybody so everybody's getting all that information at one time? Does that make sense?
I guess I'd like to, yeah, it makes complete sense. And I think it's great for us to talk about it because it's the first time it's happened after we crafted these norms. And so talking a little bit about, was that comfortable for everybody? You know, Denise's question to Matt, I think it was just for some clarification, what have we done in the past and learning about issues like that. And so Denise copied the rest of the board, and then Matt, you know, sent it on to his staff, whoever the expert would be to answer that question. I think it was Jamie. Was everybody comfortable with that process? And is that what we'd like to see continue related to number 7?
Yeah, I personally would like to see, if the rest of the board is for that, it's all questions, whether they go to Matt, you, or Matt Yeager. The entire board just copied on all communications that are board related. So no one's left that loop and everyone can follow from the beginning. So that first sentence, I wasn't sure whether a word was left out because I was confused as well. So when it says board president, vice president, and then will be shared, does that mean the information and questions will be shared, or the responses will be shared with the entire board? Because I would like to continue whenever I communicate with Matt or anyone else, just copy everybody all the time.
Yeah, so just have that questions for matters cabinet should go to the superintendent, board president, or VP, and the rest of the board? Or should just go to the superintendent and the board?
I'm okay with that. How does the rest of the board feel about that?
Fine with me.
Yeah.
So that way the question's being shared from the beginning, but then when Matt responds or you as president respond, we're all right there. We already knew the question. We may have input as a board anyway, and then you do the formal response, or Matt does the formal response. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah,
It just
I've always
makes
been
sense.
in,
Oh, go ahead.
oh no, that's fine. I've always been in favor as well with copying everybody on the board. You know, the one thing we have to be careful of is not to get into a back and forth when that happens. So,
Yeah.
so
Right.
it's a question that goes out there, but there isn't kind of that discussion going on.
And that's where we would utilize the board roundtable, which is, or circling back, which is, where is that? Number 4 would help us with that if we utilize that process this year.
Yeah. Yep. And then the second part that's on number 7 was, you know, that was pulled in after we talked about those Friday informal meetings. Should that be a separate item altogether, or?
I think the first sentence and the second sentence contradict each other because they both have information, but information's being sent to 3 people versus 2 in the second sentence. So I think it's best to pull it out.
Just
Well,
take it out completely.
Well, I think to your point, Christy, that second and third sentence are a completely different topic. That's that Friday meeting you have with Matt. So yeah.
For presentation.
Oh, and you know what? Because Kim is on the phone. Kim, I'm going to read this to you so that you know what the heck we're looking at here. I forgot you were on the phone. So number 7 is now information.
Christy, Kim's trying to say something to you.
Oh,
No, I'm
sorry.
good. I can actually see it, believe it or not.
Oh, you
Don't
can.
ask.
Oh, okay, great. Wonderful.
Wow, you got good eyes.
That's great.
Alright.
So how does 8 now read to everybody?
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Or does information still go to Matt as well? Because that's what it's saying in number 7. Should we add him to number 8 as well?
I think that there's going to be times where, you know, I might throw out a quick question to Christy to say, hey, I don't know, I don't even know of an example, but I think sometimes there might be a question that I might ask of Christy that she can bring up in that Friday letter. So I think I'm okay with that. If there's points in time where we just need a quick discussion or a quick question on something that's, I don't know. I guess I'm okay with that, the language, the way it reads.
I guess it gives another option. I guess you can send an email, you know, to the whole board, or you can just give me a call and say, hey, can you bring this up in the Friday meeting? It just gives another option, I guess, for whatever.
Yeah, there's no problem with that as long as you don't keep getting pulled in all kinds of directions either.
Yeah.
And I guess if people have information or questions for Matt in number 7, they're on, I assume if he's not going to answer right away or have an answer to us, it's going to appear in the Friday letter anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So are we good with what's there right now? And you know, I really think this can be a living document, and we may, as we proceed along, say, you know, we had talked about this, but I really think it's not working, and there's some, you know, we need to change course. We should always be able to have those conversations as we move along.
So with communications, I do want to touch upon, you know, the example that Jim brought up, because I came up with another situation where I'm not sure exactly where it falls. Some of us have relationships with some of the staff members, and we don't want, basic communications have always gone to Matt or the cabinet, but Matt would prefer that everything go through him to his cabinet, and it sounded like that's what he wanted for staff as well, possibly. But Jim brought up a great point that he has, you know, a relationship, you know, with one particular person, and that he sent an email. I'm in a situation, you know, where I want to send an email to a staff member congratulating them on something. If that's something we're still going to be allowed to do on our own, because that's something I've done the last 3 years, I'd like to continue with that practice, you know, whether it's a congratulatory email or a thank you email for something. And I want to see what the board felt about that.
I guess I'm wondering, are you sending the congratulatory email as a friend or a member of the community, or are you sending it as a board member?
Just events that I just go to, that I choose to go to. Or something that's just, you know, the whole board is invited, maybe 1 or 2 of us may attend, or, you know, and I just sit, you know, send thank you so much for opening your doors, whatever. Saw some great things today, just to lift the spirits of the board members, or not the board members, the staff.
I would agree.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Jen, I think that's a great idea. Because I do think that it's kind of like when somebody gets a, you know, thank you to everybody. Sometimes I think that one-off thank you. And I think we just have to confirm that it's kind of the positive versus the negative. I think sometimes it's nice to get those individual ones. But I guess that would also depend on how Matt feels about that as well, given his interest in more streamlined communication this year.
Right. I wasn't sure where it fell, because the norms say information and questions, which, you know, congratulating someone or thanking for something doesn't fall in the, you know, the parameters of our norms. And it's something I've just kind of done all along.
Yeah, from my perspective, I would say that I kind of like that. As Kim said, you know, to send a positive to the staff, regardless who it is, that, you know, a simple thank you. It's amazing the things, especially during these tough times, the little things in life that, you know, that just give them that extra oomph, and, you know, it really comes a long way coming from, you know, an administrator or the Board of Education. You know, it means a lot to them. So, I mean, that's something I've always enjoyed, you know, so, you know, I support that for sure.
Or here's another thing. I mean, I go to a lot of events on my own that aren't board related, that I just look at the calendar and just show up to. I mean, I guess in that sense, I'm just showing up as a community member. I could just send that email from my own personal email, I suppose. I don't know.
Well, I guess I'm wondering too, you know, what's the difference between that and, you know, what Jim was asking too, that, you know, he has relationships too, and sometimes he just wants to know when the swim meet is, you know what I mean? And so how do we want to handle those kinds of things? And it almost sounds like you might be communicating in both of those instances as a community member, you know, saying, you know, calling to say, when is the swim meet, or saying, you know, I went to this thing and it was really great.
Mhm.
So I don't know how others feel about it.
I would just say,
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, I mean, they're kind of two different things. It could become two different things. Like Jen's suggestion about sending a thank you kind. I mean, that's pretty harmless. I think we got to be careful if we're asking questions, because as a board member of employees, because, you know, there's a certain obligation then that puts them under pressure to respond, regardless of the, you know, previous relationship they've had as friends or whatever. But, you know, we just got to be cognizant of that. Is it a problem to ask when a swim meet is? Probably not. But that does take away from whatever else they were doing and, oh, I got an answer a board member real quick kind of thing. You know, just in general, I'm not speaking about specifically Jim and our AD, but just in general, we got to be cognizant of that. If we're asking any questions, we have to remember that, you know, that may put them under a little extra pressure to answer a board member versus just a general, you know, person from the public. So
Yeah.
I don't know how we handle that, but, you know, it's got to be at least thought of.
Yeah, I guess this goes back to my first year because I always just assumed as a board member, everything would always go through the superintendent anyway. And I just made it practice never to put employees in that position. And I thought it was interesting how Matt handled things my first year, that we could email, you know, the cabinet with questions as long as he was copied. And actually he's going back to what I always thought it was supposed to be. So yeah, no, that line has never been crossed. These are just simple thank you notes or congratulations to someone. I noticed that someone wants some honor or something.
You know, I think fortunately we're 9. You know, we're in this for the right reason. And I think that we're not going to ever cover every single example. And if we're doing it, I think it's actually one of our norms that we're assuming that people are doing it for the right reasons. If we have someone who wants to reach out and say thank you or congratulations to somebody, I think that's great. And we just have to trust one another that that's going to work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
I was going to say it's like an honor system.
Yeah, I agree with that statement, Kim. And you know, to go back to like, you know, Jim's question from last time, I'm totally fine with that too. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. And if down the line, like this year, you know, Matt's approached by somebody, I would hope that Matt would kind of come to one of us and say, hey, you know, this communication happened. Hey, next time, could you do this? You know, I feel like we're all responsible enough to handle that and make sure we're respectful, you know?
So Jim, we've been talking all around you. Do you want to weigh in at all?
I know, where are you, Jim? I can't see your face. Oh, there you
There
are.
are circumstances where, like Lisa Denny and Mark Lloyd, I taught with them for decades. And if I want to send them an email and say, congratulations on your retirement, I don't think that should have to go out to everybody or to Matt or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like Yerusha over at Ray, she was my student teacher, and I've known her ever since she was a student teacher. So if I wanted to email her with something silly or ask her if my pine cones are still there in the storeroom or something, that shouldn't have to go out to everybody. You know, it's just, but, you know, if anything involves board business or policy or something that's going on in one of the buildings or something, yeah, that should be, you know, go through Matt and it should be emailed to everybody. It's just common sense.
Yeah.
I agree, Jim. Thank you.
So Matt, I think we all want to honor your requests and how you'd like to, you know, handle things with your staff. Are you comfortable with what we just
Absolutely,
talked about?
100%. Yeah, I think Jeff said it perfectly. Is that, you know, thank yous and things like that. That's, you know, I think that's different than when it's a question and they have to respond. So yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great way, you know, to boost morale and just, you know, it's I think it's excellent. So I'm definitely on board.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. And I took it off of screen sharing just so we could all see each other a little bit better. But is there anybody that would like to go back and look at the norms or anything else, Matt?
I don't think we need to look at it, but number 8 says that we make decisions by consensus. I think that implies that we always vote the same way, which may not be the case.
Ah.
You know, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that, but I think sometimes that's what's inferred from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that the important piece of that is that we all support whatever decision is made, regardless of how we vote.
Ah.
Or you could say the decision is a consensus.
Okay.
What does consensus mean? Does that mean all 9 or is it majority?
Yeah, there's a difference.
technically it means a general agreement, but I think that when it's used, it tends to be inferred as that everybody felt the same way.
Everybody came around to that point of view, supposedly,
Right, which won't always happen.
which means basically it's a majority.
Well, no, consensus doesn't necessarily mean the majority. That's
Certainly
a
it's a minority opinion.
well, no,
More people support it than don't.
yeah. Well, I mean, I
Majority.
think that it people tend to understand it to mean that everybody felt the same way. Everybody agreed.
Can we just say something like any decision that is approved by the majority of the board will be supported by the board membership?
I think that is clearer to me.
I think we use consensus because in all board trainings, they always use the word consensus.
Yeah. So.
I don't
so
think
are
you
we
need the end of
comfortable-
that sentence. I think you could just put a period after membership and be done. You're kind of repeating the beginning of the sentence.
All righty. So it now says the board should speak with one voice. Any decision that is approved by the majority of the board will be supported by the board membership. Is
That
that
sounds good.
I think
to
that
me.
sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
great? Is there anything else anyone would like to talk about related to our norms? I think what's been important in this whole thing is the discussion we've had around this. You know, that's been the most valuable thing about that process of putting those together. And I think we all, you know, understand each other a little bit better, you know, after having gone through that conversation. So I thank you everybody. And I really appreciate the fact that we were able to have that conversation.
Yes, I agree. It was very productive.
Great. I'm just going to go back to sharing my screen and share the this, because I think what we need to do is, oh, I did just want to take a moment. I know it's not on the agenda here, and I wondered if you all wanted to say anything, but the graduation on Saturday was another really successful event. I hope the PTA event after, I hope the students had a wonderful time. I just wanted to thank Matt and his team for putting on another really wonderful event for our graduates. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything about that, because I know a lot of us were there. Yeah. And then the webinars, I just wanted to say a quick word about the webinars. I think are just going so well. I learn a lot every time I listen in, and it seems like the district is really trying to be open with everything that's going on and answer people's questions and have them talk about, you know, what they're worried about. So,
Yeah.
Do you know how many people are viewing them?
Yeah, the last one, Jim, through Zoom, we can have up to 500. So we have people that much more than 500 registering. So what we do is we have let the community and the families know that they can also view and participate on Facebook. So the last one, we had 2,300 participants.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's it's going well, and remember, we spend a lot of time emailing and working with families, and we just keep reminding them that it's okay if they miss it if they're busy. We know it's summer and people have lives and they work, and but it's on our website that they can go at their leisure to view, and submit questions anytime after, even if it's not that particular day. So yeah, it's been going very well. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback.
That's great. Well, thanks.
Just wanted to say, people have who have come to me have had great things to say, that they appreciate the transparency and all the information and the hard work that the district is doing right now. So thank you. And also the graduation ceremony was great. It was very intimate, and it was wonderful to see everybody smiling, and that opportunity was there for them.
Also, we have Marty's send off tomorrow at Gather at 2, right?
Yes, that's at 2 o'clock. He signed up. I think when I was talking with the chief, he wanted to put this together. His actual sign off will be at 2:30. So if you can try and get here by 2:30, we said 2 o'clock because if we want to make sure we have some, I anticipate a bunch of people. So I want to make sure we are making sure that people have masks and are socially spaced throughout the entire area there. That's why we started a half hour early from when he actually is going to pull in and sign off. But yes, that's tomorrow right up at the Baker bus circle.
Right in front of the building on the bus circle, right?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Great. Anything else before we go? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to ask Matt, how was the turnout for the after graduation parties?
Yeah, it was very good. I was going to mention, thank the PTA because they put together an excellent event for the seniors. We had, the first one was the busiest. I would say out of 450, we'll call it, graduates, we had half that number. We had 225. So it was a very good turnout. The cap toss and the food and the kids just come together. It was just great seeing the smiling faces. They definitely enjoyed it, and again got great feedback. I think every single kid had won a raffle, and it was fun. Put tears in your eyes. Because I could sit back and I could watch, and my heart breaks because it's still, I feel bad for the kids, even though we did the best we could and we put things out there, but it's just like, it's just, as long as education's been around, we've had this certain thing. Now, all of a sudden, 2020, the class of 2020, it's different. So as much seeing their smiling faces and how much fun they were having, I was like, it was a very nice event. And I can't thank the PTA enough for taking the time. And I mean, they put in hours and hours to, holding on and hoping for a bigger and better, but they did a tremendous job, and same thing with Chris Denton and his staff, doing the second ceremony. I mean, everything, they couldn't have went better. So, yeah, so I thank you for bringing it up, Christy, because it was excellent. Very happy and proud of everyone.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else before we go into exec? All right. Wonderful.
I'm sorry, Christy.
Yeah.
I have to shape this, but I just don't want to surprise. I know I put it in a Friday letter, but just I'm going to put something together with Joe related to reopening. But we're going to have another special meeting because there's things that we're going to need board approval for, like the school calendar. We're working with the unions, but I don't want to put the cart before the horse without getting, before I bring it to the board and talk publicly about this. But I do want to let you know that we are very close to some agreements as it relates to changing the schedule. And when I say change the schedule, that does not impact children at all. We're not, the children, their schedule, the calendar that you have already approved moves forward. What I'm looking to do, and with the help of the associations, is to start a little bit earlier to provide professional development for the staff. So they, there's a lot of stuff that we need to do. We can't just have them come in, for one professional development day, and then say, all right, here come the kids. There are a lot of things that we got to do. So I'm going to be putting this together, and I think I might be done with it tonight to be able to provide you with more detailed information, exact dates, because obviously if we add 3 days in the beginning, we got to take 3 days somewhere else. So I want you to be aware of it. So that would be one topic that we'd have to meet for. The other one would be, we had sent you a resolution as it relates to our policies, you know, so that when we move forward, I mean, obviously the board is going to have to act on these changes, but what we're asking the board to do is through this resolution is allow us, rather than wait for board meetings, to make immediate changes so that we don't have to delay, you know, student start or times or anything, whatever it relates to. But that doesn't dismiss the fact that we still will have to get together as a policy committee, review them, and follow our procedure. So those will be the two topics that we have to, we're going to ask the board if we can. And, you know, let me think it through, because I know a lot of times when we try to have these quick type meetings, we try and do it in the morning. I think this one, I'd say, you know, if you guys are open to it, let me play around with it some more. But I think maybe a 5 o'clock would be better, because I think we'll need a little more explanation for the board. I don't want to do that at 7:30 in the morning when people have to go to work. And so I think maybe this time will allow us to do a little bit more of a presentation and have a discussion, so that you're not rushing around in the morning. So I wanted to put that out there, but that'll be quick. I mean, it may be. Well, we'll figure it out. I'll put some dates out. We'll figure it out together. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to give you a heads up. That's all.
Great. I thought I heard somebody started to speak. No?
No, but I'll say something, because if you're going to bring people back 3 days earlier, this is the year to do it, because there's no state fair to interfere with.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, Jim.
All right, guys. Matt, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Okay.
All right, well, we're going to go into it. It's resolved that the Board of Education enter into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular individual. May I have a motion?
Move.
Jim, and second?
Second.
Denise? All right, great, guys. Well, we'll close out of this one, and I'll see you on the